Hi, my name is Dan Funk. Today I'm going to be presenting a script like this. This was kind of designed by two of my teammates, Kevin Burnett and Jason Lance, who also are core contributors and have developed most of everything that I'm going to show you today. So really, this is a back-end kind of way of working with Spiffworkflow. So maybe you want to build your own like user interface on top of Spiffworkflow that handles like your interactions with your clients and your end users. And then you want to continue to use Spiffworkflow as the orchestration engine, but want to just kind of step down at kind of a lower almost software development layer and make these API calls rather than sending your end users directly to the Spiffworkflow user interface. There are many ways to accomplish this mission. But this is like probably the most technical and the most complete. Like you can take this farther than any other method that we'll have demos for you here for. So let me just like quit like mumbling at you and like step into it. So if you go to our spiffdemo.org website, and anybody can go here, you can create an account, you can follow along and do these steps right along with me or on your own, and you can quit listening to me babble because they're all the directions that you need are going to be right here. So we're just going to go into the examples, step into in-depth topics, and just as of yesterday, there's a brand new process model called direct API calls. And inside of direct API calls, there is a command line tutorial README file, and we're just going to be stepping through this, from the command line over here and executing these commands against a really simple process model that'll help us demonstrate what you would need to do to be able to like gather information about like a particular user form, for instance, and what information needs to be injected, for that user form to be considered complete. And then you could implement it yourself while still letting Spiffworkflow decide when it's the right time to ask a user a question. We can just going to quickly like show you this user form, but it's just going to ask one question, which is like, what is your favorite city? And the form, it's going to grab this like favorite city variable. If this was like presented on the website, you would see if I can get it to render here. You would see the form look, please enter the name of your favorite city, and you just type it in and hit submit. But we're not going to do it that way. We're gonna do this over an API. So let me step back out, direct API calls, and I'm just going to follow along in this README. So again, command line tutorial. Just to demonstrate how API calls are going to work, we're going to be using two command line functions. There's a curl and a JQ. I guess we use cat too, but like these should be very familiar to you if you're familiar with like doing APIs from the command line. And if not, these are super easy commands to learn how to use, and I'll be showing you exactly what to do. The very first thing we'll need to do is through the UI. We'll need to create an API key, and you can do that quickly enough, and anybody can by going up to your account and clicking on API keys, and from there you'll generate a new one. I've obviously been trying to get this tutorial like done, a few times this morning, but here's the very last one, the latest demo 2, and I'll submit that. You can give this API key any name you want. It's really not gonna matter. What does matter is this code that's generated here. So I'm just gonna copy that and I'm gonna echo it into a file. So I'm gonna echo like, no, that doesn't look right. Echo that into T, and now I got a file T that's in there that's got that string in it. And let me just hit the back button here, and we'll go back to step 2. And here we're going to execute our first curl command. So let's just talk through this real quick. It's a post because we're going to be creating something. It's going to be a process instance. So we're posting. So you've got your base api.spiffdemo.org/v1. So that's your base endpoint. Or if you've got this running on localhost, this be on localhost. If you got it running on a server in your system, this is just your base URL. And then we're following kind of RESTful standards. So the thing that you want to create is a process instance. So that's the endpoint that we put. And then the final argument is what process model you want to create an instance of. Notice this says examples to in-depth direct API calls. And if I scroll up here to the top, you'll notice that mirrors this, examples to in-depth topics, direct API calls. So it's just the path, and name of the process model. You'll see that like we're catting T, so we're just like putting the thing that we echoed into the file T here. And if we took this out, we'd get an error because it wouldn't be authenticated, but it knows who we are thanks to this API key, and will allow us to make this call. And what comes back is a little bit of information about the process instance we just created. You'll see the ID here is really the important thing. So let's save that as a file as well. So I'm going to echo 5289 into ID. And now we have two files, an ID and T. So we've got these two things kind of saved. And then we're going to want to make sure that we kind of get this thing running. You don't have to do this for every. You don't have to do this every time, but it's important to like kick this process off. And the way that we do that through the API calls is like this. And let's see here. I think there's maybe a little bit of too much space there, so I'll have to clean that up after I get off this call. But this just makes sure that process is running. 5289. And great. What is its status? User input required. That's fantastic. Okay, so we want to get data from the end user. That's kind of the point that the process instance is at. What information do we need to get? Well, to figure that out, we're going to have to like check the tasks. So that's on to step 3. So step 3 is going to be a curl command. And what is this hitting? It is hitting /tasks. Like the /tasks endpoint, right? The thing that we want to get is tasks. We're making a get call, not a post or put. We're not creating anything. We're gathering information. So like get is the default. So there's no -x kind of argument here. So tasks, process instance ID. We pass in that process instance ID that we just captured, and pass in our API key so it knows who we are. We run that, and we get back a series of tasks. If there's many user tasks that can be completed now, it would give us like a bunch of them. But for us, there's one. And you can see the task type here is a user task, so we know this is waiting on information from us. What information? Well, it's defined in this form file named favorite_city_schema.json. And the task ID here is going to be important. So if we want to complete this task, we'll have to tell Spiffworkflow we want to complete task 4B3A. So we're going to want to capture that as well. So one last time, let's echo this into a file called task, so that we now have 3 files in here that we can reference. And let's get this form. So we need to know what data to present. And the way you do that is just request the file itself. So here we're making a call to process models. It's a file inside the process model that defines what this thing does. And here's the path to the process model. /files tells it we want a file. And then the name of the file, favorite_city_schema.json. And we're gonna this request is gonna come back with all kinds of information about the file, but what we care about is the contents. So we're gonna just tell jQuery to extract those file contents, and back that comes. So that should look just like the file that we looked at earlier when we were when we showed how to build the form. And it tells us there's a field that's favorite city that's required. And the properties here's all the things that should be, that would be valid to include in the response. There is a great library out there, React JSON schema forms. It is what we use internally to render it. It will take a JSON file and it will build a form in your React web app to gather the information. We're not going to render a form here. We're just going to use curl. So we need to just post favorite city back in. And that's, where this tutorial is really about. It's how do we interact with the API? So we get information from the user in whatever way you want to. And then when you want to send it back, you're going to do a put. So we're going to update, like the put in REST is to update something, and we're going to update this task. The data that we're going to send it is a favorite city of Prague. We're sending it, to the tasks endpoint. Here's the task ID, or here's the process instance ID, and then the task ID. So very specific process task. Here's the JSON we want to post. And then hit enter on that, and it posts the information and then comes back and lets us know. It just provides details about the process instance and where it is. So where are we at? We're on end event 1. So that means kind of we've made it through that user task. We're no longer on it anymore. It's proceeded past it. It might hit another user task. It might, hit a decision point. Who knows, right? It's going to continue along that process and do what Spiffworkflow does best, which is kind of orchestrate those processes and run them, and then let you know what the next thing in the workflow needs to be. And so, yeah, that's the demo. That's how to directly interact with our APIs to get information. If you'd like to know more, you can go to api.spiffdemo.org/v1.0/UI. This is kind of our live every API endpoint we have, and how to access it. So you can see we've got our AI tools, liveness, status, active users. You can get lists of process groups. You can interact with process instances. So there's a lot of information here that you can use with these API calls to build out whatever kind of front end system or integration that you want to function with Spiffworkflow. Super proud of what we've done. Thank you so much for letting me tell you about it, and hope you have a great day, and look forward to seeing you around on our Discord server where you can ask questions if anything here doesn't make sense. Thanks so much.